Om Vakratunda Mahakaya
Vakratunda Mahakaya
Suryakoti
Suryakothi
Samaprabha
Samaprabha
Nirvignam
Nirvignam
Kuru
Kuru
Me
Me
Deva
Deva
Sarvakaryeshu
Sarvakaryeshu
Sarvada
Sarvada
Saraswati
Saraswati
Namastubhyam
Namastubhyam
Varade
Varade
Kamarupini
Kamarubini
Vidyarambham
Nityarambam
Karishyami
Harishyami
Siddhir
Siddhir
Bhavatu
Bhavatu
Me
Me Sada
Sada Gurur Brahma
Guru
Gurur
Brahma
Vishnu
Guru Vishnu Guru
Gurudevo
Devo
Maheshwaraha
Maheshwaraha
Guru
Guru
Sakshat
Sakshat
Param Brahma
Param Brahma
Tasmai Shri
Tasmai
Gurave
Shri Gurave
Namaha
Namaha
Om
Om
Sahana
Sahana
Bhavatu
Bhavatu
Sahano
Sahana
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Karavavahe
Karavahe
Tejasvinavadhetamaस्तमाविद्विषावहे
Tejasvinavadhetamastavadvishavahe
Om
Om
Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti
Shanti
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha
Atha Dvitiyodhyayah
Atha Dvitiyodhyayaha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagawanuvacha
Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha
Nasadho Vidyate Bhavaha
Na Bhavo Vidyate Sataha
Nabhavo Vidyate Sataha
Ubhayorapi Drishtontaha
Uvayoravi Drishtom Daha
Vanayostattvadarshibihi
Tvanayostatvadarshibhihi.
An important shloka, and the first line of the shloka is highly cryptic. So, two words are used, asat and sat. Asataha bhavaha na vidyate. Asat doesn't have existence. Sataha bhavaha na vidyate. Double negative. Sat doesn't have non-existence. It means sat exists. Asat doesn't exist. Relatively exist. Asat doesn't have independent existence. Sat independently exists. So those who see Drishtontaha, those who see the truth of this Anayoho Tattvadarshibhiti, though they are Tattvadarshis. Tattvadarshi can see the truth of this theory. Now the words Sat and Asat are analyzed. Bhava and Abhava are analyzed. Existence and non-existence. Sat and Asat. Analysis of existence and non-existence. Non-existence means not absolutely non-existent. There is nothing in the world which is absolutely non-existence. And the word for absolute non-existence, for that we have a word, tucha. So, asat doesn't mean tucha. In Vedanta, we have a word for asat, it is mithya, relatively existent. What is mithya, exist relatively in relation to play, which is satya. So, therefore, sat and asat are going to be analyzed. Tucha is another word for abhava, non-existence, and refers to certain combination that do not exist at all. For example, man's horn, Manushya Shringa, doesn't exist. Horn exists and man exists. Both are bhava, both exist. For these words, there are objects in the world which I know exist. But when I combine the two as man's horn, there is no such thing. Does the word asat in the verse mean tucha, non-existent? No, because it is unnecessary to say that something that is non-existent has no being. In some modern commentaries on the Gita, however, we do find asat being translated as an equator to non-existent. What purpose is served by this sentence? The non-existent, such as a man's horn, has no existence. No purpose is served by this sentence. That which we refer to Asat as an order of reality, which is neither Satyam, Bhava, nor Tucha. There is another type of Abhava between these two, a non-existence that we call Asat here. For instance, we cannot dismiss the sense organs and sense objects as totally non-existent, Tucha. Are they then Sat? Let us analyze that. That's why we don't go by the English translation. Non-existent doesn't have no existence, it's no meaning. So it has got relative existence. For that, we have the word that's called Mithya. So therefore, for Abhava, we have two words. One is Tucha, other one is Mithya. So when we say Mithya, then where we bring in the order of reality. A sense organ cannot be called a sense organ unless it perceives something. Eyes are a sense organ only because they see a form. Ears are a sense organ because they hear a sound. And the senses of smell, taste, and touch are all called a sense organ because they contact the sense objects. How can you call eyes a sense organ if they do not see? If ears do not hear, there is no sense organ, even though the earlobes may be used for earrings or for catching hold of someone. The earlobes, etc., are just anatomical aspects of the sense called hearing. It is hearing that makes the ears a sense organ, and there is no such thing as sound without the ears. Which establishes what? To establish the existence of one, we need to establish the existence of the other. When establishing the existence of either one, which depends on establishing the existence of the other, there must be some other basis for the existence of both. That all of them depend on something that is self-existent, Sat, because we cannot dismiss the sense organs and the sense objects as non-existence, we say they are Asat. They are not totally non-existent, that is Atyanta Abhava. The sense organs and the sense objects do exist. All the responses of pleasure and pain, Sukha and Dukkha exist. You cannot dismiss them as non-existence, nor can you take them as independently existent. Therefore, for something that cannot be dismissed as non-existent, Tucha, and cannot be taken as independently existent, Sat, we have to have a word, and that word is Asat. Another word for Asat is Mithya. Asat or Mithya is that which has no bhava, that which depends on Sat. Only when there is Sat is Asat possible. Therefore, Mithya or Asat is something whose existence depends upon another thing. And because whose existence, move forward. Therefore, Mithya or Asat is something whose existence depends upon another thing, and because it has no independent existence, it is not separate from that upon which it depends. Objects do not exist independently. When a pot is made, before it is baked, there is only clay. Therefore, thus once upon a time the pot was clay. When it became a pot, it was clay in the form of a pot. Even though it has been fired, it is nothing but clay. All that has happened is that the clay now has an added attribute, guna, the pot form. This added attribute is what is meant by creation. Creative possibilities are there, but there is no such thing as clay pot without clay. So clay is Sat, pot is Asat, Mithya. When we look at anything in this world, we always find that it is a form with a name, depending on some other substantive vastu. A particular form, Rupa, is called Asat. It has the nature of its substantive, but in itself has no bhava. By the time you see an object, it has already changed. It is never the same in the next moment. It is like seeing a film projected on a white screen. It looks as though someone is standing there, but in fact, the frame is continuously changing. Similarly, The frame in one's mind keeps on changing exactly like the film. This is what makes it possible for us to see motion. Because what you have seen is already gone and you don't see it again in the same form, an object has no real power. In a flowing river, you don't get the same water at the same place. It is over, gone, flowing constantly in the flow of time. Similarly, any perception we have is conditioned by time and therefore has the nature of being merely an appearance. It is as though there and not really there because it is always changing. It is as though all the time. All objects in the world are time bound. When you see an object, that object is not seen by you as an independent object. You always see some other thing along with it. When you see a shirt, for example, you also see cloth. And when you see the cloth, you see a particular material. Thus, you find that the shirt has no existence apart from its karana, the cloth. Not only can you not create a shirt without cloth, you cannot imagine one either. Cloth here refers to any material with which the shirt is made. Without cloth, paper, or some other material, it is impossible to make a shirt, even in your imagination. You can imagine an elephant entering your ear by seeing yourself as very big, but you cannot imagine making a shirt without cloth. No object exists by itself apart from its cause. An object that doesn't exist independent of something else cannot have the word Sat imputed to it. It can only be Asat because Sat will be the one upon which the object depends for its power. If I remove the cloth, can you wear the shirt? All you will have is the emperor's clothes. There is no such thing as shirt without the material with which it is made. For the word shirt, there is no corresponding object at all. Bhava means it must independently exist, and because the cloth is the bhava, the shirt has no independent substantive status. Nor can you say the cloth with which the shirt is made is because it too depends on something else. Then what is the real circle? That which exists by its own glory and doesn't depend on anything else for its existence is called Sat or Satyam. Just because something is a cause doesn't mean it is Satya. Causes themselves depend on their causes and therefore they are also Asat. Why do we see the Sat in the Asat? Because if everything is Asat, obviously that we see the world as real, as Sat. We say the world is. We don't look at it as something that is not. This is because in every perception, there are two buddhis. Buddhi meaning cognition. Here, buddhi means knowledge, cognition. Pratyaya, buddhi pratyaya. One buddhi is with reference to the object, what is seen, and the other is with reference to its asat buddhi, the is not buddhi. This is not buddhi has to be explained. The problem is that we take the is not as is and get confused. It's a very important statement. This confusion leads to sukha and dukkha. It is discussed in the Bhashyam. This is a translation of the Bhashyam. When we see a pot, there is a pot buddhi, pot cognition, pot pratyaya, ghata pratyaya in the buddhi. And we say the pot is. That buddhi, cognition, whose object is the pot, undergoes a change similar to the changing frame in a moving film. It is this buddhi, this cognition, that is called asat buddhi. That which doesn't undergo a change is called sat buddhi. Suppose the pot you are looking at is replaced by another object, a tree. Now the pot thought is gone, pot cognition is gone, pot is gone. Pot is gone along with pot cognition is gone, and the tree is there in its place. Previously we said pot is, now we say the tree is. So in the pot is asat buddhi, is sat buddhi. Now asat buddhi gone, tree has come, tree is asat buddhi, is sat buddhi. If we analyze these two cognitions, we can see that is buddhi, that is the isness never goes. The pot goes because it is asatu. And the sat that is always there is now with the tree. When the tree buddhi goes, branch buddhi may be there. And when the branch buddhi is gone, leaf buddhi is there. When the leaf buddhi is gone, chlorophyll buddhi is there. And when the chlorophyll buddhi is gone, particle buddhi is there. When the particle buddhi is gone, whatever buddhi that is left will still be there. What is that remains finally? Sat. That is always there. Is always is. Therefore, it is called Sat that which doesn't change, whereas the object whose buddhi changes is called asat. The object is asat because the buddhi keeps changing. We recognize it differently each time because it changes in every perception. Therefore, we have two buddhis, object buddhi and the is buddhi. When we say blue pot, Neelaha Gataha, both words indicate the same object. The object that is blue is pot, and object that is pot is blue. Similarly, when I say, please meet Mr. So and so, the musician, both Mr. So and so and the musician are one and the same object. When we say Arjunaha Pandavaha, there is only one person, Arjuna, and he is a Pandava. In all these situations, there is a substantive adjective relationship. Visheshya Visheshana Sambandha. The word blue is an adjective, Visheshana to the pot in the expression blue pot. However, this is not so when we say the existent pot or this is a pot. Here it seems as though the isness is an adjective to the pot. It is not correct. The pot is the adjective to existence. The potness qualifies isness. Here there is Sat Buddhi, meaning that the pot exists, and there is also pot Buddhi, the object Buddhi, which are two different things. To say this is a pot definitely implies isness. Since the word is used, there are therefore always two buddhis, two cognitions, Sat Buddhi and Asat Buddhi. Sat Buddhi doesn't change, always it is that Buddhi. Asat Buddhi, that is object. Objects keep changing. The Sat Buddhi is what we say, consciousness, Chaitanya. So, Chaitanya being there, all objects come to illumination. Therefore, object Buddhi, Asat Buddhi changes. Chaitanya which doesn't change. That's why it is Sat Chit. Only Asat Buddhi, the object Buddhi changes. Meaning the existent Sat Buddhi is conditioned by an object as its attribute. Is always there. When the tree is in the form of the tree. The Sat is in the form of a tree. When the tree is, when we say. Similarly, is can be in the form of a pot. There, the is Sat, the existence is in the form of the pot. A person, a nose, a body, or anything. All this Namarupa. Pot, the name and its corresponding form. Person, the name and the corresponding form, similarly. All these are Asat Buddhi. Existence also is in the form of thought. Therefore, if there is no thought, what is there is existence minus thought. Existence minus body, minus the body, existence minus the world is existence. That existence, Sat, is always there, not affected by any addition to, or subtraction from it. So, the existence always exists. The Is Buddhi, therefore, the Is Buddhi always remains. The way in which the Sat Buddhi is conditioned is what undergoes change, whereas the Sat Buddhi itself never changes. Therefore, Shankaracharya says in his Bhashyam that the object of the thought, this is a pot, is Asat because it is always changing. The object of the vritti, changing, it never remains the same. Whereas the Sat Buddhi, on the other hand, is Satya, Satyam, because whatever that Sat is, it doesn't undergo any change. A doubt being possible here, Shankaracharya clarifies a point in the Bhashyam by raising and answering an objection, Purva Paksha. Suppose a pot is gone, destroyed, and the pot Buddhi, Gata Buddhi is gone. You say, the pot was, now the pot is no more. The pot being destroyed, the pot Buddhi goes, and the pot proves to be Asat. But along with the destroyed pot, does the Is Buddhi, Sat Buddhi also go? Shankara's response is that the Is Buddhi never goes. Is always there, he said. He said the pot is destroyed. The destroyed pot is, the pot is no more, etc. Because something else is. The Is Buddhi never goes. Only the conditioned Sat Buddhi is gone. The Sat Buddhi, the exist Buddhi, is conditioned by a particular name and form, Namarupa. And when the pot is destroyed, the Namarupa is gone. the Sat Buddhi is not gone. It is there to join with anything. The Is Buddhi can join with the broken pot and say the broken pot is, or anything else is. Broken pot also, if it is further broken into powder, the powder is powder into molecules. The molecules is further into atom. Atom is the isness continues. Whereas the name and form keeps on changing. They are bound to change because Asat, only Asat keeps on changing. The varieties of objects seen by you keep on changing while you remain the same person. That is, the existence remains, it never goes away. If this aspect of the teaching is not clear, you can conclude that Atma, the Sat Vastu, is zero. Therefore, the Atma alone is, and everything else is Namarupa, only an addition to that Sat Buddhi, an addition that doesn't bring about any addition. Just as the pot form doesn't bring about an addition to the clay, so to the addition of a Namarupa to the Sat Buddhi doesn't bring about any change to it. This is a vision. The Sat Buddhi is qualified by an attribute, is in the form of a tree, is in the form of a pot, is in the form of something, and that form keeps on changing. That which changes is Asat Mithya, whereas Sat remains ever the same. And what is that Sat? The Sat Buddhi is existence, consciousness. Existence is consciousness. Consciousness, the Sat Buddhi, always joins with something in the form of knowledge and reveals. For example, the pot is gone, the tree is, when the tree is gone, something else is. When everything is gone, I am, Agam Asmi, Sat Buddhi, Chaitanya, that ever is. That isness to all is rendered by this I, Agam, which always exists. Therefore, when it comes to the Atma, myself, then becomes I am. Asti becomes Asmi. Asmi, when we say it is Agam Asmi, I am. Then we have to stop. No more adjectives. Agam stops there. Agam is Agam only. I is Chaitanya. Am, exist. Agam, Chaitanyam, Atma, that alone exists. And everything as a cognition, as a thought, comes and goes. They get illumined by this Agam. They get life because of Agam. They depend on this Agam. Therefore, I am is Satyam. And everything else is Mithya, Asatya. We'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om